Thank you. And before I begin, I had a whole bunch of questions, but I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you and I love you. And you are, someone in there is my best friend. Is my inner being with you today?
Of course.
Is his name Ralph by any chance?
Whatever you like.
Okay. Does he have a preference? And I'm knowing he's not a man.
It matters not at all. It's just a point of reference that you feel comfortable with.
Yes.
And we love you too.
Thank you.
But we encourage one question.
One question. One question.
Your very favorite one on that list.
My favorite one on this list is, I'm wanting you to help me bridge from Phoenix to San Diego, everything that I'm wanting, all my desires. And my strongest desire is to peel away the onion layers and get to the core of Pam and this physical life experience.
Well, we want to set you at ease by saying, when you say, I want to have movement on every subject, we say, good, one at a time. And when you say, and I want you to help me get to who I really am, we say, good, one better feeling thought at a time. In other words, just live moment by moment and do your best in the moment where all of your power is to reach for the best feeling thought you can find, and you're on the way. In other words, there is very little that we can feel in terms of real resistance within you. You know what to do. It's just a matter of practicing it. Those of you who have been listening to us for a while have undoubtedly heard endless spewing of processes. We never stop giving you yet another dog and pony show to help you to find vibrational alignment with who you are. And for the most part, those lighter weight, easier processes work perfectly for you.
Minding my own business. And when you said earlier about nothing is more important than I feel good, Abraham, I feel a little bit of resistance with that. Almost like the lady that sat in this chair before, as if I have to qualify that with whoever I'm working with or with. Is it the belief?
It can get a little complicated because you are a born uplifter, which means you care about how people around you feel.
I do.
But when you care more about how they feel than about how you feel, then you get out of balance. And that often happens even at very early stages of your life when people around you, your parents, for example, while they are very well-meaning, they care about how they feel, and everyone does, and they, without meaning to, usually put you in a position where you discover early on that pleasing them is good for you. And then your teachers make it clear that pleasing them is good for you. Your police officer certainly would tell you that, or soldiers with weapons would certainly tell you that. The bully in the playground will tell you that. In other words, almost anybody who is wanting to regain power will tell you that your pleasing them is good for you. But when a person already has their power, then they're not looking to others to please them so that they can feel better. And so when you live in a world where there are so many people who feel powerless, then there are a whole lot of people wielding a lot of power who are then laying out edicts to you about the way that you need to behave in order to make them feel better. We understand that. You do too.
Yes.
In other words, if I do not understand that in my physical form, and I want to feel good because everyone innately does, and I look into these circumstances and I feel good as I see them, so I say, good, I support these circumstances. I would vote for these. I would put my money and energy behind these. But when I see these things, I feel bad. So I want to get rid of those things because after all, in my powerless state of being, where I believe that I can feel good if things are good, but I will feel bad if things are bad, then I must control the conditions around me. And there are so many people that put you in that category as part of those conditions that need to be controlled in some way for them to feel better. But from your personal standpoint, there's no guidance in that because each one technically would ask something different of you. And if there are any of you who have more than one in your experience right now that you are trying to please, you understand how impossible that is. In other words, this one wants you to do this right now with them, and this one wants you to do this right now with them. And you cannot possibly follow both paths. And so you must reach the place where you decide that it is important for you to utilize your own guidance system.
Can you help me do that now?
Your own guidance system is about the way you feel. In other words, it's a determination. You have to decide. And it isn't something that you will achieve all at once. It really is a decision that you have to make. Let us ask you some questions.
Yes.
Do you believe that you are an extension of source energy?
I do.
Do you believe that the source energy or the energy that is at your source is pure positive energy?
I do.
Do you believe that that energy or that perspective or that inner being or that source or God force or whatever you want to call it feels good?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that when you focus in vibrational alignment with that part of you, that there is an alignment of that
Yes.
flowing to you and through you?
Yes.
And do you believe that that is a good feeling when it flows?
I do.
Do you believe that the more in alignment with that you are, the better you feel?
Absolutely.
And the less in alignment you are with that, the worse you feel? Then what more would you need from us? In other words, that knowledge must surely be enough. When you say, nothing is more important than that I feel good, you're not saying, because I'm a selfish fiend who wants to feel good and suck all the good feeling away from other people. You're saying, when the reason I want to feel good is because that is the only way I can really be who I am. That's the only way I really have anything to give to anybody else. In other words, you just have to practice that thought, coming at it from every direction that you can come. And what happens is, what do you think stands in the way of your totally embracing that idea? Or do you embrace it conceptually? It's just hard to offer practically.
I think I offer it conceptually, and I think what stands in my way from truly embracing it is judgment of other people, and or I see them not happy and they not being in the place I am of saying nothing is more important than I feel good. They can't get there. There's a big crevasse. So they see me and there's judgment, and in some way I'm now making them feel worse because they're comparing themselves to me.
And then what happens to the way you feel? So
I noticed that.
So you're feeling wonderful, and there are people around you not feeling so good, and then you notice that they're not feeling so good. Then what happens to the way you feel?
I feel badly. I feel badly.
So is it logical to you that if you would not look there, that you would feel better?
Yes.
But you feel guilty because you think you owe it to them to feel as bad as they do?
Well, I feel this group psychology of being thrown in a group situation at work or sometimes in home situations
but
or
you
family.
See, the thing that we really want you to hear, you could be in a group situation at work,
Mm-hmm.
but when you start taking emotional journeys, you will be on your emotional journey that pleases you no matter what physical actualization group dynamics are going on. In other words, what you're saying is, when I get into a group, I acquiesce to the vibration of the group. And we say, well, you wouldn't do that if when you're not in the group, you would practice holding your own tone. In other words, so when you're not in the group, think about being in the group and feeling good. In other words, practice it at a time when it's easier. And eventually, your vibration will be the way you want it to be, no matter where you are. And then the groups around you change. When you are in high school, you say there are these peer groups, or there are these cliques, or there are these gangs, or there are these groups. And we say everything is that way. Everything has a vibrational basis. And you can just feel the vibrational basis of everything that comes into alignment. And then you say, well, if I were just following the way I feel, in other words, they bus my children to school, that we entrap our children in school. If our children were following their bliss, they probably wouldn't be in school at all. And we say many of them would because they want to learn, or they want the group exposure, or they want the fun or the camaraderie. In other words, there is no right or wrong answer in any group endeavor, but you have all power within any group. You have the ability to feel the way you choose to feel, and the group will become for you whatever you have decided that the group is. For example, let's say that when you're by yourself, you can feel really good, and you often work yourself into a place of feeling good. But there's this one holdout where you don't feel very good, and that's when you go to work, because there are some particularly strong personalities there who have been there longer. They're more in harmony with each other. They're sort of outnumbered it's what it is and you're what you are. So when you're not there, you feel pretty good. When you step into that, you immediately feel the discord between who you really are and how you want to be and how you keep seeming to be when you get into these group dynamics. So now you're at home and you're thinking about that and you're feeling guilty because you can't maintain your own vibration, or you're feeling blameful because they make you feel the way they do, or you're feeling despair because they're hurting your feelings. You're feeling some negative emotion. And then you say, all right, what is the emotion that I'm feeling? And you reach to try to figure out what it is. And then you reach for thoughts that feel slightly better than that. So if they're making you feel total disempowerment, for a day or two, you might just be mad at them. And so when you go to work, having only reached that place of being angry in your homework, so to speak, you might have more open confrontations with more of them. But you might notice that the confrontations, as embarrassing as they might be, and as unwanted as they might feel better to you than what you were feeling before. But now, that's hard for you to feel in the fury of everything that's happening. But now, you go home, and now you're sort of contemplating what happened. And now, back in the privacy of your own mind, you think about the confrontation you had. And you got to admit to yourself that the confrontation felt better to you than the feeling of powerlessness that you felt before. You've been feeling pretty ganged up on, and you're sort of proud of yourself that you held your own. Not only that, you're feeling more in control of your own experience. So the feeling of powerlessness is dissipating rapidly. And now you achieve this place of anger, but there is a pride that's mixed in with the anger, a sort of satisfaction, a feeling of contentment that is starting to be a more dominant part of your vibration even than the anger. So you go to bed sort of feeling smug, not a bad vibration, sort of feeling proud. Smug is sort of anger and pride mixed together. And the next day, you go to work, you're a different vibrational being. And now this day, you're not attracting confrontation from anyone. Now, they're sort of staying out of your way. You might hear them whispering about you as they're going about. You might hear them sort of scoffing at you. And you're thinking, man, look how powerful I've become. Now they're sort of staying out of my way. Now they're not bothering me so much anymore. And now you go home that night, and now you're thinking about it. And now your pride has sort of moved into an understanding. And you're thinking about this law of attraction thing, and you're trying to understand who they are and where they're coming from a little bit, and you might even begin to feel a little compassion for some of them, that they are not in control of their own experience. And you might even be thinking, I'll bet some of the anger and the way that they're acting and the fact that they're gathering together in sort of leagues or groups or gangs is because of their feeling of powerlessness. And wouldn't it be nice if they began to feel more secure as I am coming to feel? It would be nice if they're ever asking, I'll tell them what I've come to know. Not too soon, because I'm wanting to make sure that I'm stable here, but I'd like to be of value to any of them if I could. And now you're back the next day, and now that angry thing that seemed to be directed to you is sort of dissipated. You're sort of a non-issue to them. You've vibrated sort of out of alignment with them. You're not angry like they are anymore. You're not feeling depressed, and so you're not harmonizing with them. You're feeling empowered. So now you are separate entities. You are a vibration unto yourself, so to speak. And while you have work that you have to do together, and while you may be interacting superficially, there's not this vibrational thing that's going on that's bringing you together. And you're finding yourself feeling more empowered and even polite, and you're smiling at people that you wouldn't usually smile at. And some of them are surprising you and smiling back, and you're beginning to notice that they weren't all the same either. Some of them were really in that place of despair, and they were resonating with others and sort of sucking those that were on the peripheral into that. But some of them were really not very far. Some of them were actually closer to where you are than they were closer to where the others are. And now there's a sort of vibrational dance that's going on where people are dancing in and out of your experience. You're starting to discover personality traits. You discover that this person is really very funny, that this person's sarcasm, while it has a sort of biting edge, really is quite humorous. And now tonight when you go home, you're making lists of positive aspects about these new friends that have been there all along. You didn't have any idea who they were or how good feeling they were. And now you're beginning to say things like, if I can be of value to any of them, universe, I'm open to it. Please give me opportunity to let them know what I'm coming to know. I want to soothe them. I'd like everybody to begin feeling as good as I am feeling, you see.